Hey guys, welcome to Tiny House Customs. I'm Dan. That doesn't look right. Hold on. There we go. Sorry. That's much better. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I went through the learning process on how to use this tool. Because there's a learning process. It's not a circular saw. You got to be smart. So it's going to be hard. I definitely want to give a shout out to our sponsor of today's video, which is PANTOROUTER.com. Check out their website. The link for that will be in the description below. I've got a promo code for you, which is TH Customs. We'll do it right there and down below. You'll get a small discount on your purchase, but it is only for the tilting version. And also, I don't know how long that promo code will be available. So if you want some money off this unit, make sure you act fast. Let's get started on this little project, eh? So last video I assembled this thing. If you didn't watch that video, check it out. It'll be in the description below. But to start out on this thing, I've got my router installed. Everything is tightened down. All the screws, everything is tight. I'm not sure if this piece is included in this purchase when you buy the PANTOROUTER, but you definitely need it, and it is I believe it's called like a centering jig or something like that. It'll fit either 1/4 inch chuck or a 1/2 inch chuck. And it's got a point on both ends, so this will work for both. So I've installed that. Now on the template holder, you want to find the center of the template holder, so just go over on the holes. There's 4 and 4 and that middle hole. Then take your follower and put it into that middle hole, and that will be dead center of the template. Then what you want to do is take the PANTOROUTER and slide it in so you get a point right there. I just hit it a couple times, and I got a small little mark there. And I took a speed square, and they recommend using a marker. I used my utility knife, and I just put a small mark in the table right here. So this represents the center of the template holder. So that way when I install the template and I put it in the center, I know that this point right here reference off of that point right there. I'll make sure that this screw hole in the center goes in that center hole right there, and I'll know I'll be dead center. Makes sense? So unfortunately from this point on, from that video that I was filming, I lost audio. So I'm going to go back and refilm everything, which is completely fine because it just gives me more practice with this machine. What? No. Whatever. I'm just going to go, and then this video is going to be all over the place. I don't care. So this was the first joint that I did with the mortise and tenon. This piece ended up running long, and I just took my table saw or my circular saw and cut it flush right there. I did notice that this piece shifted when I was putting in the mortise on it, and I had to really hammer this thing into it, so it was a bad joint. But it was my first one, and it glued up, and that is stronger than anything I've ever made. This is my second one I made, and it came out pretty decent. There was a little play in it. So these pieces are like mock pieces for my window. Just like I did my door, I'm going to have a lip right here. I'll put my window in here, and then I'll do a window stop on this side right here. So I need my mortise and tenon to be kind of offset. Well, maybe I don't. Yeah, I do. No, I don't. So what I did was I cut this piece of wood to act as what my window was going to be. Roughly the width I want, roughly this depth that I want. All this is rough. And I did a mortise and tenon joint. What happened was, no, we're not going to get it. Right there. If you look in that bottom corner, you can kind of see that radius right there. That's because the tenon was sticking into it just a little bit. So what I could do to fix that is make this piece wider, or I could shift this tenon over a little bit. Maybe that's what I should do. But what that'll end up doing is weakening this point right here. So what I'm going to show you is how to get these pieces to be perfectly flush on the ends, and then I'll show you how to figure out the height on it. So this right here is a Bessie clamp. I think that's how you say it. I'm probably saying it wrong. I say a lot of things wrong. But it's a self-adjusting clamp. It works alright, but I'm not really impressed with it. One thing that was a problem is that these things are in the way. I could probably shift it back so that they weren't in the way. But what I've realized is that the clamping pressure down isn't as crucial as holding the piece side to side. So these L brackets that I got 2 sets, so there's 2 in each one. So I got 4 of these. These work great for setting up the piece where you want it to be. Now in one of Matthias's videos, he was talking about a 5/16 carriage bolt. He ground the edge off of it, But what you do is you just ground 2 edges off on the side of the carriage bolt. I had a fart. Okay, I feel better now. Thank you. So I bought 4 of these carriage bolts, 5/16, and then I ground the edges down. I bought some washers with a 5/16 hole, and I bought these knobs. All this stuff was available at the big box store. The knobs were like $2.50. I think the whole setup, the bolt washer and this knob, was like $3 or $4. And then what I did was take a scrap block of wood and I ripped it nice and flat, straight, square, and I installed the carriage bolts onto that. I had to pre-drill this side with a 3/8 inch bit, and then once I went in about a 1/4 inch, I went to 5/16. I drilled the 5/16 first, and that way this carriage bolt will go inside that, and this will sit flat on the table. I found this clamp right here to be the most helpful. So this clamp slides into the track, and it's good for that. But I also purchased 2 top-of-the-line Irwin clamps. Yes, top of the line. Not really. But these will help hold the piece in. And then I bought a 4-pack of just regular squeeze Irwin clamps. So with all these clamps, I should be able to hold the piece down. With these pieces of wood, I should be able to hold the piece side to side. These will go for special circumstances and stuff like that. So what I can do is I can set this table up so that I can do both the mortise and the tenon on 2 portions of my window joints. If I end up offsetting this, I'll need to set it up one way this way, then I'll need to shift the whole jig this way and set it up that way, if that makes any sense. Probably don't. But basically, it's really important that the piece of wood that you're routering doesn't move at all. This is a precision machine. If your material moves just a fraction of an inch, it's going to throw all your joinery off. So good stops and good clampage is a good thing. Now when I purchased my panty dropper, I'm not that short. I'm just crouching down. Stop judging me. I had a court date already. I don't need to be judged again, alright? So I've installed that template into the template holder. I made sure the center hole on the template is in the center hole of the template holder, and I put the 3 screws in it so it won't move. Now to figure out what height this needs to be at in orientation with the tabletop, you need a piece of your stock that you're going to be using. I'm using 1 3/4 inch. Now on the back of this template there is a line about a 1/2 inch down. So if you take your stock material and place it on top of that top rail, and then bring this template holder down so that engraved line is flush with the top of it, that makes this point right here the center of this material, because this is a 2-to-1 scale. So is that right? 2-to-1 or 1-to-2? I don't know what the terminology is, but it's half the distance. Yeah, that would be right. 2-to-1. No, it's a 1-to-2 scale. I don't know. It's different. Now what I have to do is take the total width of the material that I'm doing. So let's say this was 1.5 inches wide. If I come off my center line 3/4 of an inch, then I take my speed square and I put it up to these L brackets at that 3/4 inches over from the center line. I can place this up against there, hang it off the edge, and then I would clamp this down, and I could follow my template, and I know that my tenon would be perfectly in the center of this piece of wood. Does that make sense? I think it did. I mean, I know it didn't because it doesn't make sense. It's so complicated, but you gotta have to, like, you almost have to have the machine in front of you for it to make sense. So once you have this distance set, either with your L brackets or with a homemade jig, which I'm gonna end up using the homemade jig because it's taller and just stuff, okay? Just stuff. Then you can set up this piece for making your mortise. Tenon and mortise. I need to write them right there. Mortise, this is a mortise and this is a tenon. Now if you take the piece that will end up becoming your mortise and you butt it into this piece right here, into this stop right here, that will make the mortise the same distance that your tenon will end up being. So that is how you would figure out how to make this tenon in the correct location. This direction doesn't matter, and same with this right here. So right now I'm going to set up all my blocks for making the mortise and tenons for my windows, because I'm going to do that. I got 6 out of the next 7 days off from work, so I am going to be making windows. Windows will take shape this week. So I figured out the final thickness of my window frames, which will hold the windows. And this is it right here. These are some scrap pieces that I ran some tests on. Now you can see that my tenon is offset from the center of it. So this tenon is a 1/2 inch by 1.5 inches. So if I take my center mark that I have on my table here and I come over 3/4 of an inch, that'll bring me to this edge, and then I wanted a 1/4 inch on this edge right here. So 3/4 plus 1/4, 1 inch, and if I were to clamp this piece in right here, I will get this tenon perfect all the way around there. And same thing with the mortise. Now if I take this piece and I butt it up against this edge right here, which was the same edge that this was coming in on, I will get the exact spacing so that these are completely flush on top here. Now these were just scrap pieces that I ran tests on, and I'm sorry, but that is a perfect fit. It's almost a little too tight. So these are some scrap blocks that I have. I'm going to take them and put them down onto the jig. So it's okay that this piece is hanging over or is set back, because this will be making the mortise. So I'll put that in, and then I'm going to use some hand clamps that I have. So this is tight up against these two L brackets, and it's tight up against this piece right here. And I'm going to be making the mortise, so I'm going to loosen this piece right here, the follower. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to stick the follower into the center of this template, and I'm going to stay off the back of that template just a 1/16 to 1/8 inch, whatever. That way it's not going to hit those bolts, and it slides freely right there. There's no obstructions, and I've got full motion. So if I bring the router bit right up to the piece of wood, I can now set my depth on it. So this is my depth gauge. I have this set on the inch scale. So if I want to go 1 3/4 inches, I'm going to go to 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to just go a 1/16 over, and I will tighten that down. Since I want my mortise to be a 1/16 deeper than my tenon goes in, this will help that. So when I do my tenon, I'm going to set this stop at 1 3/4 inches. So I'm just a hair over 1 3/4 inches, and I'll lock this in. So the whole reason I went with this being offset is because this corner right here is going to be notched out to accept the window. If you look on this piece right here, I had run a test, and now this is roughly the width that I have. Now my window is going to sit on this lip, and then I'll do a window stop like I did on my door. If you didn't watch the door series, the link's in the description below. And you can see this tenon, I lost a big chunk off the corner right there. So I've shifted this tenon down a little bit, and I also made these pieces for my final windows a little bit wider so that I'll get better strength. Now this is extremely close to that edge. Not really happy with that. It's a little too close for comfort, but I think it'd be alright. I would like to have at least 3/8 on that, but it's strong as it is right there. I mean, I ain't breaking that. Now when you're routing, when you're doing your mortise, you want to go real slow. If you were to rush it, it's going to make this thing move a little bit, and you don't want this thing to move at all. So be real gentle with it. So I set everything up. My depth stop is set. Everything's tightened down. Double check everything. So you want to do your mortise first, because this has no play. I mean, this router bit sets this width. Now the template holder you can adjust so that your tenon is exactly this width and dimension and all that stuff. So get all your mortises done before you do your tenons. So that's good. I'll undo this piece. Then we will set up a tenon piece. Now I'm going to go 1 3/4 inches deep on these. So I'm going to hang this off the edge roughly 2 inches. I mean, 2 inches is good. It'll give me clearance. As long as this piece right here is square to the table, which I use my speed square to line it up so that it was, I'll be good. And I've noticed that the more clamps, the better off you're going to be. This bit will sometimes make the wood chatter a little bit or shake, which will loosen it and cause problems. Any movement in this board will throw off your precise calculations that you've done. So I'm going to clamp the shit out of it. Now I'm going to switch the follower to the outside of the template. And since I've done one already, I know that I want to be about an 1/8 inch strong away from the template holder. Now, you want to make it bigger, so you want to start as close to this as possible, and then if it's too tight, then you would bring this follower down onto this template to make these a little bit smaller. Now, it's a 2-to-1, so if you see this has got a small taper, if you move this down an 1/8 inch, it's literally going to be such a microscopic amount on this. So to start out, I'm going to butt this into this piece right here, and I'm going to set my depth stop to 1 3/4 inches, and I might just go a hair under 1 3/4 inches. That way that this is a little over 1 3/4 inches. This will be a little bit under 1 3/4 inches, so they'll fit in perfectly together. There won't be any bottoming out, which will be a major problem. I'll check to make sure I'm not going to hit anything before I start the router bit. Before I remove this from its holder, I'm going to take my test piece. I'm going to knock it out, make sure there's no sawdust in there, and I can test it on there. And you can see it's just a little too tight. So to fix that, all you want to do is slide this follower down just a little bit. Now, again, it's a 2-to-1, so I'm going to go kind of about an 1/8 inch, and we will router that again. Check that again, and that's perfect. That's basically how you set this thing up to make your mortise and tenons. So you can see I've got a perfect mortise and tenon. That's good. That's real good. That is thousandths of the inch we're talking right there. I'm okay with that. So now that I have this set up, I can do all my pieces. I can do a mortise in both ends of all the pieces, and I can do a tenon in all the ends of all the pieces, and everything will be good. Since my mortise is in the center of this material this way, and this dimension's not going to change if I come in this way or if I go in this way, it doesn't matter. And this piece, as long as I orient this correctly when I flip it, and I don't twist it this way, this will be fine. Now, before you get all huffy puffy about the mess that I have here, hybridpantorouter.com has a tool that's coming. I think he said in June it'll be available. It's basically like a broom that goes around this that you hook up vacuum up to, and it collects the sawdust as you're going. So this mess won't be as big of a problem with that new tool. One thing I forgot to add is when you're using the PANTOROUTER and you're creating the sawdust, those pieces of sawdust can become problems. Say you had a bunch of these chips land on top of your template. Those pieces right there are going to add to this dimension, and any little imperfection in that will throw off your tenon or mortise, or either one. Yeah, both of them. And then also, if you have sawdust in between your stop block and your stopper, this will affect the distance that it can travel. So keeping it clean while you're doing the work is very important. And you can see with just a little bit of setup, you can make a lot of mortise and tenons really quickly. All these pieces over here have mortises in them. I've got 18 pieces with double mortises, and then I've got 18 pieces with the double tenons. And these will become next project. You'll see. Now there's other things that you can do with this machine, like dovetail joints and box joints and a whole other list of things. Basically any pattern you put on here, this will follow it, and it's going to be a 2-to-1 scale. So it's simple math, I think. It just takes a little bit of thinking, and once you've got it all figured out, it's a really easy tool to use. I know it's kind of scary because it's so complex, but it's really, once you start thinking about it and how it works, it's not that complex. So it's definitely a tool. If you're a hardcore woodworker or you're looking to get into woodworking, it's definitely a good tool to have. You can't tell me that you could do that with any other tool. I mean, that is just precise precision. Yeah, you could make a tool that does it, but I'm impressed. So if you are interested in purchasing this hybrid PANTOROUTER, the tilting version, make sure you go check out hybridpantorouter.com and do that promo code THCustoms. Again, it's right there. I put it right there somewhere. Enter that in and you get some money off on your purchase. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, so if you're interested in it, make sure you act fast, I guess. I hope I made you proud there, Matthias. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and you possibly learned something. If you're new to my channel and you like these videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you think this video might be helpful to somebody that you might know, make sure you share it on your favorite social media and tag them in it. If you want to become a monthly supporter of my channel, make sure you check out my Patreon page. The link for that will be in the description below. Eventually, I'd like to start a second tiny house build, and it'll be a fully fan-funded build. So as that Patreon account grows, and once it hits a certain amount, I will start building the second tiny house. And also, by becoming a Patreon, you're going to get all my content as I upload it. So this video was filmed probably 3 or 4 months ago, but my Patreon supporters are getting it months in advance. They'll probably get this video next week. Again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video. Next video, I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to do some work. It's going to be a long video with ads in the middle of it, but my windows are basically going to be built in one episode. I'm slightly depressed that that step is over. We'll meet again, tool. We better. Fun tool, though.